I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish.
We're on in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to On in 5. I'm Anton Ryder. How you guys doing tonight? I'm here with Ethan Bonine, maybe.
Hey, I'm here. I'm doing better than I was 24 hours ago.
Good. Yeah, you had a little bit of sickness going through you.
Yeah, I'm better now.
Good. I'm glad to hear it, man. We're happy
so
you're
good
here.
To hear, dude.
Thank you.
Do you know who else is here? Austin Thomas.
Hey, here I am. I got a full stomach. I'm sipping on some of the best beer I think I've ever had.
Ooh, ugly.
And I'm ready to wrap up this monster.
This has been a long time coming. Yes. Tonight we are finishing up our series on Fleetwood Mac. It's going to be... I've had a good time with this
Oh,
series.
yeah, this has been fun.
They're a great
But
band.
I'm pretty interested in doing some more like a full dive on like an album that is noteworthy of other bands we do.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we'll find some more important albums like Rumours that we released 2 weeks ago, and we'll do some more on that because it was very, very fun to do. But for now, we're going to wrap this bad boy up.
We're just going to get right into it.
There's no sense in
We got a lot of ground to cover, but it's not that... No, we don't.
Okie dokie. We got it. We're good. Okay, so when we last left off, Rumours was just released, and it was huge for them. It climbed the charts instantly and stayed there for a very long time. This new soft rock was perfect for radio, so much to the point that one radio DJ said FM radio may as well have stood for Fleetwood Mac radio through 1977.
What one DJ was this?
You
Didn't do your homework, dude.
Do you know?
No, I don't.
Great, that's awesome.
It might not even be a real fact.
It may not. Yeah, maybe a
no
fake
one
person.
may have said that.
I say that FM radio could have stood for Fleetwood Mac radio in 1977. How about that?
Hey, people think that BC means never mind. We won't get into it.
Wow. Wow, this is going great.
I'm feeling pretty feisty tonight.
Oh, good. I need a little spice in my life. A little spicy spice. So the press also loved the story that Rumours had behind it. And so the band decided to lean into all the lies and rumors that were going on, and they did a cover story for Rolling Stone, which they called The True Life Confessions of Fleetwood Mac. And the cover for the March 1977 issue showed the band lying in a bed with Christine and Lindsey snuggled together under the blankets, Stevie embracing Mick.
Yikes, because we don't even know what's happening under that blanket, because we're going to find out they're definitely bumping at some point in this time period.
Yep.
And that's the ultimate thrill ride. Pictures,
And John...
people. Oh, man, it's so hot. So sexy.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Stevie and Mick would have made a nice-looking child.
Oh, God, they could have. They're so close.
And then John was by himself reading a magazine. And people don't know what this magazine is. I've read it's Playboy magazine. I've read that it's like a teen magazine. Nobody said what it really was, and I tried to look at the picture. It doesn't show anything. But he's just doing his own thing. Doesn't want any part of the sexual escapades going on beside him.
That is going to be quite a theme for John.
Yeah.
He's kind of minding his own business.
Just doing what he loves.
And I like it.
Now, is Ethan here?
Nope. He's
Perfect.
way not.
All right, Ethan, just say your first line. Just say
jump
it fast.
in. You're right there. First line, go.
This would be their first of 4 appearances on the cover of the Rolling Stones, and we won't talk about this ever again.
Oh, yes.
Well
I think we're going to leave this in. The reason we're laughing so hard at this not very funny line is because Ethan's internet is horrible. So he's just leaving and then jumping in for his lines and then leaving again.
We waited for that line for a good 2 minutes, and we just screamed at him to read it the second he popped in.
He is a fart in the wind right now. He's not lasting long. He may be gone right now. We don't know.
Yeah, I think he is, because I haven't heard anything from him.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. Wonderful. So after Bob Welch left, who was their acting manager, Mick decided to step in. He and John set up their own management company called CD Management while recording Rumours. They also set up 2 publishing companies called Rockhopper Music and Gento Music, both of which were named after breeds of penguins, fittingly, and they also set up a tour management company called Penguin Promotions.
John and his goddamn penguins.
He loved them, man. He was real big into them through and through.
Emperor
Penguin
penguins, just whatever.
Rockhoppers and
All about
lily
'em.
spotted red eye.
I just have to wonder why penguins.
I don't know, man.
That's all he cared about was penguins.
Don't penguins
I don't get it.
do necrophilia in the wild?
Penguins are weird, man. Penguins get into some weird
Yeah,
stuff.
there's some weird stuff for sure.
Like some
I
BDSM.
I saw like a penguin house dispute
Oh.
the other day
Oh.
Wow.
on the internet,
Oh.
Huh.
not in life.
Huh.
Good.
Yeah, dude came home a little too early. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I've been to live.
The social
Look it
lives
up.
of penguins.
Look it up. Penguin fight. It's pretty cool.
Pretty brutal. I don't get it, but I mean
That's fine.
I don't get paid millions of dollars to get it, so I don't care that much. So Penguin Promotions got them ready for their next tour, which would start in February, a month after Rumours came out. It would last 2 months and take them across America and Europe. As they were much bigger in America, they played for crowds of 10,000 people on average in the U.S. and crowds of only about 1,000 people in the U.K. And while they were in London on tour, they met up with Peter Green, who had recently had his incident we mentioned in the first episode where he attacked his manager with a gun because he kept receiving royalty checks. And it turned out that manager that he attacked was Clifford Davis.
So, it's not all bad.
Not all bad.
Everything is bad.
Maybe
Yeah,
it
he
was
went
called for.
wacky pants, but he
LSD
did it on
trips.
a dude that kind of deserved it.
It has a silver lining. That's a beautiful footnote to the end of that man's time in our story.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank God.
Pull the trigger on that.
Oh
Oh.
my God.
Okay.
Woofda.
Oh, this is
So,
good.
While
Beer.
while they were on tour, Mick and Stevie also started seeing each other, which caused some real issues because Mick and Jenny had gotten married again, and Stevie was seeing Don Henley of the Eagles.
They can't keep out of each other's pants. Everyone's banging everyone in this scenario.
Big love,
Yeah.
baby. Big love.
I mean,
It was the 70s, and it was free.
can you blame Mick though? I mean, Stevie wearing that Rhiannon outfit.
Dear God,
nice
no.
and
It'd be
flowing.
so hard.
What year was this? Was this during the very short time she had fake boobs?
This was
I don't think so.
1977.
Oh, yeah. This would be probably right when she had them.
That's awesome.
Ooh, lucky
But
Mick.
it was a
Big
short
Dick
list.
Mick.
They got infected, so,
Oh.
Huh, somehow didn't make it into the story until right
Oh,
now.
no, it's a thing.
Okay, cool beans. Good to know. And there's actually rumors that while they were making the Rumours album, and Lindsey sent everyone away on vacation, Mick went to Honolulu, I believe, and Stevie was there as well. So there's actually some speculation that they hooked up for the first time during that break, but
I don't
they
know
haven't
if I'd call it
confirmed it.
speculation. I'd just say there's some notes that they hooked up. Mm-hmm. There's some people who say they hooked up, and they say it because they know.
They say it because it's a true fact.
Because it happened.
Yeah. We can't say for sure whether it happened or not, but
Yeah, it did happen.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. So at the end of the year, the band won 4 awards in a public poll in Rolling Stone. Artist of the Year, beating out Hotel California's Eagles. Single of the Year, beating out Night Moves by Bob Seger, and again, Hotel California. Album of the Year, and Band of the Year. Stevie also took second in Female Vocalist, and Richard and Ken took 4th in Producers of the Year. So they were topping the charts on everything. I mean, they were the Band of the Year that year.
It's weird to me that they took 4th on producers because they produced this album that was the album of the next 3 years.
Yeah, I tried to look up who beat them out, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was just what the book said. So, affairs and awards aside, these guys were now world famous, and there was no going back from this. They had more money than they knew what to do with, so They did all the things that you can do with a lot of money. They obviously spent it. They bought mansions and cars and sailboats and home studios and drugs and everything else you could possibly think of. Weirdly enough, though, when Lindsey bought his place, it was a very nice house, and put in a studio, I think he was like the main one to put in a big studio. He actually shared the house with Richard Dashett, and I wonder if I think that Richard knew that he was, or I think that Lindsey knew that he was going to be like doing so much musically that he's like, I don't need this whole place to myself. But I also have to wonder if he shared it with Richard so that he could have an on-hand producer at any time. He could just always call Richard down to the studio to record.
I think that's exactly it. And plus, Lindsey and Richard were actually really close. Like, they always showed up to the studio together. They always went out together after recording. Like, they were actually really good friends. So I think it was the idea that he could share a studio with one of his close friends, but also have someone to work on his shit whenever he wanted him to.
Yeah, just have an on-hand guy ready to go at any time. You know, I'd do it.
Pretty good setup.
I'd do it if I could.
Oh, yeah, pretty slick setup.
They could also demand whatever they wanted while they were on the road. They got only the nicest hotel rooms in whatever
only
town they were.
Presidential suites.
In every single city.
Like
that's what they
top
got.
penthouse suites.
Must be nice.
And then, the hotel staff had to paint the rooms that Stevie and Christine were going to stay in to be their favorite, like, pastel-y color. And they did this for every single stop. They also had the nicest champagne, which meant pallets and pallets of Dom Perignon champagne and mountains of the purest Coke, a favorite of Stevie's.
As of right now, we're there. We talked about it last episode. She is nuts deep.
She is literally
I don't know. She's
diving
ovaries deep in the Coke right now.
Lots of Coke.
We'll talk about it in a little bit, how bad it gets for Stevie. But this was happening for everybody. It's just fun to, like, zero in on Stevie because I shouldn't say fun.
She made it a health issue.
She made it a very big issue for herself.
Yeah, she stopped doing it recrealy.
Yeah.
She started doing it almost professionally.
Yeah. Arguably professionally, yes.
Yeah, she went pro-am on it.
Jesus.
So while they were out touring, a new form of music was starting to hit the scene. This new punk era that was coming in, the Ramones and the Sex Pistols, things like that. And a lot of people were starting to like it, including Lindsey Buckingham, to the point that he went to go see The Clash while they were in London. He wanted to try and ride this wave and take the new sound into the studio when they did their next album in May 1978. They had to try and follow up Rumours, which would be no easy task, but they also didn't want to duplicate it. They wanted to alter their sound from this easy listening that they had with Rumours. Mick also announced that this was going to be a double album, and they didn't want to be constrained to any time limits, and so they wanted to build their own studio and wanted Warner to foot the bill.
A $1.4 million bill.
Yeah. I was actually reading somewhere they were like, Lindsey was really into punk and he wanted to bring a more, like, straightforward sound to the band. And didn't realize, ironically, they were doing it in a self-built $1.5 million studio.
So
back
punk.
to the roots, straightforward.
So punk.
In a studio we built for ourselves.
A top-of-the-line studio.
You know, the best punk is super polished, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone knows that that's what punk is all about.
Yeah.
Warner said no to this right away. They basically laughed him out of the room, and so the band decided that they were going to build it with the advance and royalties from their next album. And what they made was, like I said, a state-of-the-art studio with remote control barriers to change the sound, so they could bring the barriers in to tighten up the sound and bring them out to make a more roomy sound. A huge top-of-the-line board, like a big soundboard, and then they also put in a full English bar.
And they had English beer on tap in this bar. That's so cool.
Which means they had to ship in probably like a keg of beer every week or something like that, so that they always had fresh English beer on hand.
Good for them, man.
So punk.
$1.4 million.
So punk.
So punk.
This place was called the Village Recorder, and I think that they wanted to try and duplicate the feel that the record plant had, with its kind of like its kitchen and things like that. Like, it felt like a fun place to be. So I think they wanted to try and duplicate it, and it cost them $1.5 million to do it. How about it?
That's just fine. You can't put a price on home.
That's correct. I mean, they did, and it was too much.
They put a pretty big tag on it.
Big price tag.
Lindsey decided that, funnily enough, he didn't want to use this studio. He would rather record his parts at home and then bring them into the studio to piece together once he was done.
And we're just going to see more and more of this.
And the stuff that he did at home, he would record his vocal parts in the bathroom, and he would record drum parts on shoe boxes and record those recordings. Like,
Such a dick.
he is such a
I'm doing
dickhead.
this. I'm doing this on my own just because I don't want to do it at the studio with everyone.
God.
We'll get in. There's just going to be more of
It just doesn't get any better after this either.
yeah. No, there's no
just gets
like
worse,
nice
yeah.
part of this. So no one liked the idea of Lindsey recording separately, and then Lindsey actually admitted later that he may have been a little bit selfish.
Maybe a little.
Just a tad selfish. But once his parts were done, he did show up to the studio to critique how the building was going. And John actually did something very similar, but he did it in the studio. He did his parts as fast as possible so he could leave and go sailing with his new wife, Julie Rubin, who he and her got married in Christine's backyard. Wild stuff.
Why is this happening? Their relationship is so laissez-faire. It's just so weird. I cannot.
She got the nicest yard.
I'm trying to
when
put
they all bought
myself
their
in the
houses.
mindset of like getting married in my ex's backyard, and I just like want to. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna warp out of this universe thinking about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
It just depends on how nice the backyard is.
It's weird, man.
I'm all about location, man. If it's got,
Yeah,
if it's
that's
got
true.
some nice
That
weeping
is
willows and stuff,
Yeah.
like I'm in. I don't.
You
care
build a
who's
nice
there.
archway out of some pine. Yeah, I'll probably be there.
I'll show up. So since the band had no real deadline, Lindsey was able to do a lot of experimenting. He used the punk influences to create a lot of very unique stuff. He was going to put it on his solo album, but the band asked him to put it on their album instead. And I think that this was something that Lindsey was kind of holding over their head. Like, if they didn't like something, he'd threaten to go solo, essentially, so they had to comply. Like, it wasn't like they were like, please, Lindsey, let's put this on the album. It was like, oh, you don't like that solo part that I did? Like, I'm going to put it on my album then. Like, I'm going to focus on my album instead of our album.
Like it's getting used either on mine or yours, and if you don't give me enough control, it's gonna just be mine.
Exactly, yeah. So he was like threatening to kind of go solo this whole time, and so they had to deal with what he wanted. Mick also pulled in the University of Southern California marching band and recorded them at Dodger Stadium for the title track Tusk.
And
There
you
were
can
over
hear those tubas coming through. Oh, I can't say that right. My brothers. I can't say that either.
What?
Oh, we're gonna cut it off.
Where is
Can
this
you say
going?
anything? What do you have?
What is what? You
don't
landed
know,
on
man.
my brothers.
Are you okay?
I want to know what you weren't gonna say.
Austin,
I was
we
about
need
to say
know.
Semper Fi, but I can't say that either.
Semper Fidelis.
God, wow.
Oh man.
Anyway,
Well,
Good job. Good
pretend
job.
It didn't happen, and make it a tradition.
They used Wally. Make it a tradition. They used the Wally Hyder truck that they had used for Songbird on Rumours, and then put a ton of mics around the field. They also filmed it all and made a music video with the footage. And in the video, they have a cardboard cutout of John that they carry around because he was out sailing. Like, there's scenes where it's just them sitting in the seats of the stadium watching the band do their thing, and then like in the back is just a cardboard cutout of John like towering over them. Like they were like we gotta improvise here, and that's
Well, let him
exactly
do
what
his
they did.
thing.
screw it. Oh man, sailing
very
must
fun
be
to
like
see.
a lot of fun because, like, if you don't want to record a music video, well, is recording a music video fun?
I mean,
Austin?
I've had a fun time.
I don't
with it.
say. I
I
don't.
bet it'd be fun.
So sailing must be
I
a
bet
lot
it-
of fun.
Can't say I'm sure the ones I've done are not quite on the scale of an endeavor like this.
I don't know.
I would imagine no matter how fun it is, that sailing is more
Probably
fun.
better.
No, yeah.
Yeah. The album Tusk was released on October 19th, 1979. It was made up of the typical stuff from Christine and Stevie and then a lot of weird tracks from Lindsey. It cost $1.5 million to make, and I don't think that was including the cost of the studio.
God.
So
No, yeah. Those
This is
are separate
almost
charges.
$3 million.
$3 million album altogether, which that was the most, just the $1.5 million was the most expensive album ever at the time. And it only sold 4 million copies, which Warner considered a failure.
And there was I know Mick Fleetwood kind of blames, there was a radio station that played this album in its entirety before it released. And so they think a lot of people did home tapings of it.
Yeah, but I doubt that enough did it to
that's
not
pretty
sell
like that's
30
like a
million
pretty
albums.
desperate thing.
I say that's a really like
your failure on.
I don't know.
You're reaching.
Oh, too many people were recording at home. What were we supposed to do? We didn't get the sales from it.
And like this is before the internet too, so I feel like he was really reaching there to figure out a way to.
Yeah, but that's just. I've worked in media, and you gotta spin it. You gotta spin it.
It takes a lot to make yourself sleep at night.
That's right. Yep. Unless you're Ken, then you just drink a lot of night. But remember that this Tusk was a double album, and it was expensive. And it was weird compared to their easy listening stuff of the past 2 albums. Warner and the band, to some extent, put a lot of the blame on Lindsey, but he defends it still, and Mick actually said that he really likes the album too. The album has a picture of a dog, and that dog was actually Scooter, Ken Caillat's dog that I may or may not have mentioned in the last episode. I think I mentioned him once, but
yeah,
whatever.
I think very briefly.
Yeah, he went everywhere with Ken and was in the studio the entire time that they recorded Rumours.
And they talk a little bit about the album covers and how everyone would get kind of upset if they weren't on an album cover. And obviously Mick was on it the most, but apparently Stevie had a huge problem with this album cover just being Scooter. She was like really mad that she wasn't on it, and who knows if this is true or not, but Ken said that when his dog died, she said, "Good, I put a curse on him."
Oh my God.
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's from him, and that's a pretty big thing to say if that's not true, so.
Yeah. But Stevie does seem
obviously
like the kind
she's
of person
gonna
who would
hear
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Nicest gal.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like she's best always.
Yeah, but that's fine. She was just upset that she didn't get on an album cover.
Yep.
And a damn dog did instead. I like dogs more than people, so it's fine.
Well.
The album did put out 4 singles, all of which did fairly well. And Peter Green actually played on the album but was uncredited. Around this time, Jenny found out about Mick and Stevie's relationship and broke it off. Kind of rude when she did the exact same thing to Mick, but that was it for them. Like she cheated on Mick with Bob Weston.
Bob
Weston.
Yep.
And then as soon as she found out about Stevie, then it was like, okay, we're done. Like, come on, come on. But that was it. That was it for him. And then shortly after they broke up and divorced, Mick told Stevie that he was having an affair on Stevie with her friend Sarah Recor. If they cheat with you, they'll cheat on you. It's the oldest adage in the book. Sarah was also married, but she broke it off to be with Mick. Stevie was devastated and even put a song on Tusk about it called Sarah.
And Stevie's gonna bounce back pretty quick. There's always someone hanging around with Stevie in this time.
I think during her devastated time, she was still seeing Don Henley.
Yeah, I think it was all kind of like parallel.
Yeah,
kind of
so she
all
was
coincided at the same time.
Like she was mad that Mick broke it off, and she just went and immediately cried on Don Henley's shoulder.
Like stars have like a weird. Oh, my main thing isn't working out the way I want it to, and I have to focus more on my secondary thing.
I think they all kind of do what they
kind of
want.
inconvenient.
I think they all have multiple relationships at the same time.
They're just always gone, so like, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Have your rogue girlfriends. It's fine. Who cares? Lindsey was seeing his secretary. So we're just going to fly through all the relationships that are happening right now. Lindsey was seeing his secretary named Carol Ann Harris. Christine was dating Beach Boys drummer Dennis Wilson,
who's infamously friends with Charlie Manson.
That's correct. And Stevie was still seeing Don Henley, as we said.
Like I was just saying, if it sounds like we're talking about somebody dating somebody, and the next line we're talking about them dating someone else, and you think, "Oh, I'm lost." You're not lost. It's just all at once.
Just everywhere.
It's just all a shit fuck cluster.
Just a
so
big
it's meant
old,
to not make sense.
Big old orgy.
Yeah. So.
And we're also going to say, I'm not going to say this, but like every time like every time Stevie is like doing another album, a solo album, she has a different producer, and she's seeing all of them. Like, she is dating all of them. Like, in the book, it was like, and producer so-and-so
It's not a
helped with this.
stereotype. This is what happens.
True, yeah.
I think dating's a bold word.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
yeah.
whatever you want to call it. We all know what dating is nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. In the book, it was like every time they said a name, they were like, so-and-so was working on the album, and she was seeing him. And it was like, that was it for every solo album.
Seeing him.
But, you go have fun, Stevie. We're not here to judge you.
Every person that worked on the album, there was 2 boxes next to, and it said recorded, banged, and there was a check mark next to each and every one, and about 80% of those had 2 checks.
Yep. So. That's a generous number. That's the floor. That's
like a low number.
Yeah, exactly.
Giving her the BOD.
Exactly, yeah. So shortly after Tusk was released, they started on another tour, this one lasting 11 months, from October 1979 to September 1980. They played 113 shows all around the world, and they brought in a few touring musicians for this tour. They were selling out arenas and stadiums, and even sold out Wembley Stadium 6 nights in a row. I looked it up, and Wembley Stadium holds 90,000 people, not including the floor seats they would put in for these shows. I estimate that that's probably another 10,000. So 100,000 people a night for 6 nights. 600,000
This is not going to be the craziest thing we're going to hear from them.
Nope.
It's going to get even crazier.
It gets bigger. It gets bigger. They recorded every show so that when they were done with the tour, they put out a live album called Fleetwood Mac Live in December 1980. Then after 5 years of basically nonstop work, they decided to take a break. They wanted to look at why this huge tour had so little profit, so they all met, and the meeting ended with the band firing Mick from the manager spot, and they all got their own managers individually. During their 9-month break, Mick, Lindsey, and Stevie all put out their own solo albums. Mick put out The Visitor in June 1981, which he recorded in Africa using African musicians. It flopped financially, but Mick loved it.
And that's one of my favorite things about Mick. Money doesn't matter as long as your art is what's important, and he loved it, and he will go bankrupt.
Yep.
Mick does go bankrupt here soon, and it doesn't.
He
it's
hits
fine
bottom
because he's putting it into his art. He loves it, and that's all that matters.
And
we're
Warner
talking
Brothers footed the whole bill for this album.
Yeah, I think we're talking like $8 million bankrupt.
Yeah,
he
it's
sells
8 mil.
like all his shit.
He sells everything.
It's fine, you guys. It's fine. That's just part of the musician story.
And as long as your heart's in it and it is getting the message across that you want, I don't think that happened for him. But hey, I'm happy for him.
Yeah, he had fun doing it, and that's all that matters. Stevie
does go
put out
bankrupt.
He does go bankrupt. Stevie put out the most successful album of the three, putting out Belladonna in July 1981. She used Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers as her backup band, as well as Don Henley. It went to #1 and certified platinum. It also has Edge of 17, which is her most famous song, and this solidified her as a legit solo musician.
Sings a song, sounds like she's singing.
Cool, baby, cool. Say cool.
Ugh.
Such a good song. Such a good song. Yeah, that's from her first solo album. I think her first solo album was the biggest that she did. I think everyone else,
I used to watch a video of her doing this song live as a kid. I don't know why, but something.
It's a great song.
Yeah, we all know why.
Austin,
but
what were you doing?
The way she spins with that show.
Austin, what were you doing? Austin.
I just think of Ethan saying Stevie Nicks thrusted me around the man.
Yeah, man.
Puberty.
It's true. It's so true.
Stevie Nicks, what a beaut.
Yes. She still got it.
Yes, she does.
Oh yeah, 71 years old, I think.
I'd still smash.
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, man. I'd make her breakfast in the morning.
Yep.
Lindsey put out an album called Law & Order in October, and it did fairly well, reaching number 32 on the charts. And he did this album basically all by himself, filling in all the parts by himself. But just before any of these albums came out, the band got back together to record their next album. But they did this far away from prying eyes. They recorded their next album for 10 months at the Chateau de Ouville in Paris. I think that I nailed the French on that.
You nailed
Yeah,
it.
it sounded good.
Thank you. Thank you. You'd think I'd have a cigarette in my hand. This was a world-famous castle turned recording studio, and some big names recording there, including the Bee Gees for the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack.
Man, for just the idea of going all the way to Paris, renting, like getting a chateau to record in, and you get one hit.
Yeah, I mean, it's
one
fine.
hit out of it.
One hit.
It's worth it, I guess. Is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll phone in.
It'd be fun. So they all agreed that this album should be more traditional and follow that form that had gotten them so big. They all stayed together the entire time they recorded, and Lindsey had now gotten the need for punk out of his system. Mirage was released on June 28, 1982, and was very successful, reaching #1 in the US and going double platinum. Now, this album sold less than Tusk, but it was also a lot cheaper to make, so it was considered a financial success. It was also back to basics with just the 5 members playing, plus Ray Lindsey, one of the guitarists who toured with them on the Tusk tour. Christine said the album had the same feel as Rumours, but was much happier than it, as they were all much more content with where they were in their relationships.
And that's why I don't give a shit about this album.
I need the hate. I need the angst.
Need the
and
heartbreak
anger.
and the struggle and the anger.
I need to taste the vitriol in it.
Need something
That's why it
real.
only- Yep, that's why it only sold 2 million albums instead of 45.
2 million albums, suck on that. Yeah.
Flip the fucking bird. They then took the album on tour for just 2 months from September to October 1982, a far cry from the 11th month tour for Tusk. The tour was a huge success, with the band making as much as $800,000 from a single show. Mick said he hated how short the tour was because as soon as they were done touring, Mirage fell off the charts, and he thinks that they left a lot of money on the table, which absolutely they did.
Oh, yeah.
But everyone had to worry. About their personal commitments.
They could have milked that cash cow a little more.
Oh yeah, they could have done a year-long tour and probably been fine. I mean, they were already fine for life, except for Mick, who blows it. But like they could have made so much goddamn money.
God, Mick blows it so hard.
He blows it real hard. So, as we said, everyone has solo careers now, and so they had to worry about that and worry about little tours they were going to go on and making new albums and things like that, press tours and whatever. And Stevie was also going through a particularly hard time. She had a friend who was struggling with leukemia who found out she was pregnant and made Stevie the godmother. The mom died shortly after childbirth in 1982, so Stevie decided the best way to help out her godchild was to marry the widower. So in early 1983, she did just that.
Perfect.
The marriage lasted
Perfect
only...
plan.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, I mean, you
How is
gotta
that
have a
not the
mom.
most stable thing you can do?
Everybody's gotta have a mom.
Ugh.
Man, having Stevie
We're
Nicks
proof
as
you
your
can grow up
stepmom,
without a dad, but you gotta have a mom.
gotta have a mom. And that mom is a coke addict, drug addict.
Always gone.
Drunk.
Hey,
Yeah,
hold
on tour.
Never there.
Like-
Totally absent mother.
They
Perfect role
said
model.
Well, this
she
is gonna
said
last 3 months, so we're
3
looking
goddamn months.
a little too far into this.
And she said literally, I think like their vows were like, we are not doing this because we love each other. We are doing this for the child. Like,
Yeah, very
That's-
good for that child. I'm sure
that's
they're
literally
super
what
adjusted.
she said.
Good.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like you have your mom die and then you have your stepmom come and go in 3 months. I mean, the child was like probably an infant at the time, but like, still tough.
Oh,
Yeah.
imprinting's a real thing, my dude.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
All right, turn the lights down, turn the music off. We're gonna get real for a minute.
Strap in. I do wonder though if Stevie had to pay child support for this. I don't know how like stepchildren work. Like when you get a divorce,
I think you can just literally say "fuck off."
just leave.
I think
So
you
what-
can just bounce.
So what was the? I don't know. What was the goddamn?
I don't know, but
I think you could have gotten like alimony because anyone can get alimony if their spouse made more money than them and they were used to like a certain type of lifestyle with their money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just men to women. Yeah,
but
it's
also,
women
isn't the period for annulment 90 days?
Yeah, so I
Just 3
don't.
months?
Yeah, so it probably.
It
probably was just an
can.
annulment.
Whoa.
Yeah.
They probably it's probably 91 days, and they're like, all right.
I mean, yeah.
but they could have not gotten married. They could have not gotten married and just like Stevie could have just given him money.
I don't know what the point was here.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It was not very forward thinking.
Another
We're
fun
trying
fact.
to think way too hard into something that was probably like they were super high on coke, and they're like, you know what we should do?
We should get
We should get
married.
fucking married.
You want to get married?
Why would we not get married? Why are we not married right now?
Let's just do
Let's
it.
go right now. We could get married so fast.
They said that I think they said that like it was a weird way of processing the death. Like the husband was just super devastated and she was really upset. So they're like, let's just get married. Like does
That's
not
not
make
as
any
funny,
sense.
but that's probably real.
And
That's probably what it
this
is.
is Stevie's only marriage too, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stevie's
I didn't know that.
Stevie's pretty stone cold.
yeah.
Like
She never
cougar.
got married again. This is her only marriage.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
interesting. How about it?
And also another fun thing, his name was Kim Anderson.
Kim Anderson. Yep. It was a hard time reading that section because it just kept saying Stevie and Kim got married.
Yep.
But
Which
what
is
do
fine.
you do?
That'd
Yeah,
be fine.
it's fine.
It's
It's just
fine.
confusing.
It's not
We don't know
Men
what
can
it
have
confusing
is.
at
women's
all.
name. So the band decided during all of this that they were going to take another break, and they did for just under 3 years. The band didn't do anything for 3 years. Mick put out another album called I'm Not Me with the help of a backing band he was calling The Zoo, which was made up of George Hawkins on bass, Steve Ross and Billy Burnett on guitar, and then Billy sang as well. It was released in May 1983 and again was a flop.
You know, for basically being the most talented musician in the band, he really didn't have as much luck as the others as a solo artist. So I guess sex sells.
Yep, go figure. The other one, the hottest one, makes the most money. Although I think Mick's pretty attractive.
Mick does go broke.
Yeah.
Mick's gonna go broke.
So Stevie records another album, which she claimed was therapy for her now dead friend. Well, that and coke, of course. She did a lot of coke.
And getting
She
married.
again. And getting married, yep, wild stuff. She again enlisted the help of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and even Prince showed up on the song Stand Back.
It's a great song, and rest in peace, Prince.
Wow, gone too soon.
Rip.
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 I think Prince was uncredited in this. Just a little side note there.
Wild.
The album Wild Heart was released in June 1983 and reached number 5 in the U.S. and again went platinum. Christine put out a self-titled album in January 1984 with the help of Steve Winwood, Eric Clapton, and Mick and Lindsey. It peaked at number 26 in the U.S. charts. And then Lindsey put out his second album in June of the same year called Go Insane, which reached number 45.
And we've already mentioned this like twice, but this is the year that Mick Fleetwood would file for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, he, and then I think this is around
Mick goes
the time
bankrupt.
that this is like around the time that like he was like, boy, I sure do hope Fleetwood Mac gets back together for something like
Guys,
this.
Really could use a reunion.
really
Hey,
good.
everyone that was doing really well solo, you guys want to do something?
You guys want to like play some shows, make an
And they're
album?
never too far away.
No, they always come crawling.
They
not
always
crawling
come
back. They
back.
always running back. Yeah, I think Stevie said at one point, like she said, when Fleetwood Mac comes calling, like you go do that. Like you drop whatever you're doing and you go back to Fleetwood Mac.
It
'cause
makes
that's,
sense. Like
Yeah, that's
they
like
are-
where your bases is. So Stevie toured her Wild Heart album and then got to work on another. She was seeing the producer of the album, Jimmy Iovine, I don't know how to say his last name, and he and everyone around her was growing pretty concerned about her cocaine use, which was at an all-time high. Jimmy eventually dropped out of the album because it was so bad.
Like we haven't. So we've kind of joked about this, but we have not emphasized how serious Stevie's coke use was at this point. There was an interview that I was reading with Tom Petty at one point where he said because they were super close at this time, and he literally said, if I got a call that said Stevie was dead, I would have not been surprised.
Yeah, it was
Like-
really bad.
Yeah. So she was really, really going in at this time. I watched an interview, actually, where she was talking about it. It was an interview for Oprah, so she's, like, talking about coke, and it's, like, the most ominous music in the background. It's like, whoa. And she's like, I was at the point where I was carrying a gram of coke in my boot every day, everywhere I went, so I always had it on me. It's like horrifying to hear until she says the line, it changes when you start to buy it, because once you're buying it, then you're buying it. And I'm like, yeah.
The whole
I
audience
get
is
the
like,
point you're
huh?
trying to get to. But
Yeah,
you
just trying to
could've
make
done
some
that.
like huge prophetic, profound statement.
Could've
It's just,
done that a little smoother.
but like in her mind, it was like, whoa.
Then you're buying it.
She's like the next Nostradamus or something like that.
It was
She felt so good about herself.
It was such an ominous interview.
But she was a great musician.
Yes, she
Rock
was.
a Little was put out, this album she was working on was put out in November 1985 and reached number 12 on the charts. And again, it went platinum. Just like every album she does, it's just like, it's going to sell a million copies. Like there's guarantee that it's going to sell a million.
It doesn't
She
have to
toured
be good anymore. She is so... I mean, that's not to say they're not, because they are all good, but they would still do well.
It would just do well immediately.
was
Stevie
such an
Nicks
icon.
sells.
Yeah.
She's still
She
an
toured.
icon. What am I saying?
She toured this album for 6 months, but this tour was like a lot sloppier. She was having trouble singing, and she couldn't focus on stage. She would just like spin in circles on stage and almost fell off a lot and just she wasn't present really. When she was done, a doctor told her that she had a hole in her nose that had been eaten away from all the coke she had done. She actually chose not to close the hole because she was afraid that closing the hole would close up or it would do something to her voice and it would ruin her vocal quality. So as far as we know, she still has that hole to this day. This doctor also told her that if she continued to use cocaine at the rate she was using, or really even any more at all, she would have a hemorrhage in her brain and she would die.
Like, this was so bad. I don't know if you guys looked, but you can see her x-rays. And the hole is like so far up in her sinus. It is like very close to where her just brain straight up is.
Oh, God.
It's so bad. And to what Tony was saying, there was a point when on stage they had someone shadowing Stevie at all times, like just outside of the stage, ready to catch her because she was like ready to fall at any minute.
Yeah,
She was so out of her mind.
Yeah, the hole like basically went to her brain. So like if she would have like snorted coke, I think he said like if you do it again, you were going to die. Like
he
it
said
was like
it will go into your brain and you'll hemorrhage and die.
Yep, and you'll just die right there. And so that luckily scared her enough for her to check herself into the Betty Ford Clinic in Ranchero Mirage, California in 1986.
This is crazy because they recorded Rumours in 76, and she said up until that point, she had hardly tried coke. Like, it had kind of been around, but when they were in the studio was when she really started. So she'd only been doing this for about 10 years, and she did it so hard that it almost killed her.
She ramped up super fast. And 10 years is like a long time. It's not like that's not a long time.
Yeah,
but like,
that's true.
You know, but yeah, she just did it so much that it ate away.
I got people in my life that have been doing it fucking my whole life.
Hey, Dad.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, enough
it's pretty intense.
And enough to eat a hole in your nose is like, that's a lot of coke. That's a shitload of coke.
Yep.
But that's what she did.
Yeah, you
so
guys
this
should
place,
look up the x-rays because it's pretty scary.
when this episode comes out, I'll put a image up on social media.
Yeah.
There you go.
This doesn't have to be in the episode. I'm just letting you guys
Do
know.
it.
So this place, Betty Ford Clinic, was world famous, seeing celebrities like Lindsay Lohan to Jay-Z to Hasselhoff to even Johnny Cash. And after 30 days, she walked out of there a clean woman. She never snorted coke again. She did have a pill addiction a couple years later for a couple years, but she got off of that as well.
And that's actually really bad because that was all a doctor prescribing her Xanax and Klonopin, which are benzos or tranquilizers.
Yeah.
Super downers. And she said that she was just getting worse and worse to where she felt like a zombie, and she would keep telling him about it, and he would just up her dose. And
Let's give you some more to make it better.
Yeah, exactly. And I read an interview where she was like, he's the only person I'll never forgive.
Oh, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Definitely look at the opioid crisis in this country
still
right
bad.
now.
Hey, look
That's
at
what she
Michael
went
Jackson
through.
right now. And also, benzos are not opioids.
Well, huh? What about Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson got prescribed pills to death.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I mean, he's dead.
Wait, isn't Klonopin a...
It's a benzo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it is a tranquilizer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't that
Tony
be
said
a
opioid.
downer?
I mean, it's a downer, but not all downers are opioids.
And then Xanax.
Opioids
course
are all
they are.
downers, but not all downers are opioids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why? Of course.
It's like the
Why
square.
wouldn't there be an asterisk on that fucking statement?
It's like a square rectangle, Tony.
I don't give a shit. Who cares?
Ethan, we really let our knowledge of drugs seem pretty minuscule in the beginning. Now we're really kind of bringing it out.
I mean, why not let...
Just because you know about drugs doesn't mean you do drugs.
Exactly.
You
It's
know
true,
about
it's
drugs.
true.
We're in the world of
We
the
all have an
internet.
extensive knowledge of serial killers too, but that doesn't mean that
Yeah,
we
exactly.
I know a lot about
have
serial
killed
killers.
people.
I've never serial killed anyone.
Exactly.
haven't serial killed at least 2 people.
Yep.
Oh no.
I hope we can find a way to keep some of this in.
I'll learn about drugs over the course of this series.
Yeah, we'll
Everyone
educate
knows
you.
that-
Teach you. That'll be our side
I-
branch of this whole thing.
I
Teaching
appreciate it,
Tony about
guys.
drugs.
So we'll get back to the episode now because you don't give a shit about my ignorance to drugs. You'll notice that John didn't do anything during these 3 years, and that's because he was enjoying the easy life of sailing around the world and hanging out with his wife and just collecting royalty checks.
I will submit to you that John was dead addicted to having a good ass time.
He was just having the best time all the time.
He was sailing nonstop.
Like,
he went with the adage like, I'm not here for a long time, but I am here for a good time.
Exactly.
But he's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna be. Yeah.
and
He's
he made
also
it
been
so
here for a long
long.
time.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
had a really bad drinking problem, but he also knew how to just mind his own business.
Also
Yeah,
had a
he kind of
really
leveled off on that too. Once he met Julie and started dating her, like he kind of leveled
Yeah.
off on the drinking and just was like, "I'm just gonna sail, man."
why
I'm just
drink
gonna
when
enjoy
I
the
can
open
sail?
world."
I love it.
Exactly. Yeah. What a guy! What a guy!
Good for him.
So he would also play with John Mayall from time to time, who, if you remember from episode 1, was in the Blues Breakers, but that was about to change in August of 1985. Christine had been asked to record a cover of Elvis's "Can't Help Falling in Love with You" for an upcoming movie.
A fine mess.
Have you ever seen it?
No.
Me neither. I don't know how well it did.
Me
But
neither.
that's all right. So she asked Lindsey, Mick, and John to help her out with it. And for the first time in 3 years, 4/5 of the band was recording together again. Stevie was off touring and recording on her own, so she couldn't participate. But they all had a great time, and they decided that they should do another album together. But they wanted Stevie back, so they asked her, and she agreed, but they would have to work around her schedule. So between 1986 and 1987, they did just that.
Kind of.
What do you mean?
Apparently, she was pretty bad about showing up, and also pretty bad about when she was there participating. I guess at one point, Christine, there in my book, Stevie talked about how she was complaining to Christine about how she felt like she wasn't on the album at all and could hardly hear herself. And Christine was like, "Yeah, we wanted you on the album, but you couldn't be bothered to be there half the time." So like,
Christine lays it out there.
yeah, she and I'm going to talk a little more about that a bit later. But yeah, apparently she just laid into her. And she was like, "Yeah, we wanted you to be a part of it, and you weren't."
But like, and you have to think like 1986. That's when she went to the clinic. So like, they may have started when she was still heavy on coke and touring and stuff, and then in the clinic, and then like, being sober for the first time in 10 years is like gonna be kind of weird. So there's probably a reason why she wasn't in the studio, but like also be in the studio, like be part of your band that you're doing it. Like everyone got mad at Lindsey for doing the same thing, so don't do it yourself.
Yeah, she said she felt very low at this time, which it makes sense.
Yeah. So they recorded the album Tango in the Night at Rumbo Records as well as Lindsey's home studio. It was released on April 14th, 1987 and did incredibly well. It reached number 7 in the US and surprisingly it reached number 1 in the UK and sold about 11 million copies, making it their second most successful album.
The album cover was a painting by Australian artist Brett Livingston Strong, which was hanging in Buckingham's home. The painting is a homage to the 19th century French painter Henri Rousseau. It was emulating his colorful jungle theme works such as The Snake Charmer and The Repast of the Lion. It depicts a jungle with some various plants and trees next to a small body of water, maybe a creek or a pond. In the pond is a white crane and some alligators or crocodiles. I couldn't really tell the difference. I'm not super sure. On the distant shore of the pond or creek, there are 2 adult elephants, and in between the 2 adult elephants, there's a baby elephant. That's a pretty good description, I think.
You stealing my bit?
that's Tony's thing, and you just kind of took it. I like it. You did well.
I really went for
no,
it.
It's good.
I went
that
for
was
it.
interesting.
Just wait till my next one that I took.
You gave me a little edutainment right there. I appreciate it.
It was very nice.
Oh, don't worry. There's at least one or two more.
Oh, great. Good. So they knew that they needed to tour this album, and they were all on board except for Lindsey, who didn't like the pressures and the struggles of touring. He declined, and then the band pressured him, so he changed his mind. They made all the plans for the tour, setting dates and venues, and then in August he changed his mind again and said no.
Lindsey's such a fucking dickhead.
He's a pretty big ass.
God.
Woo! Great musician, big asshole.
Big dick.
I don't think we can be sued for libel for that.
No, because
I think that it's just a true statement.
No,
it's an opinion.
It's an opinion of mine. He's a dickhead.
Plenty worse things.
Yeah.
In our opinion, he's a dickhead. So the band was obviously upset about this, and they all
in the
met
opinion
to
of everyone else because it's a fact.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wowzers.
There's a penis head.
So
the band decided that they should all meet together to decide what they should do next, and this ended in a shouting match and Lindsey quitting the band. So for the first time in over 10 years, the band was not complete again. Like somebody was definitively out of the band. They had to then find a replacement as the tour was starting in just over a month. They ended up calling in Billy Burnett, one of the guitarists on Mick's side band. They also brought in Rick Vito, who Mick had known for a long time. And then Rick had played with John Mayall when John McVie played with them.
It really speaks to Lindsey's talent. 2 guitarists to replace 1 dickhead.
Yeah.
Fun little fact about Burnett. He was the nephew of Johnny Burnett, who started the band Johnny Burnett and the Rock and Roll Trio, which was a decently big rockabilly group. And Billy's dad played guitar and sang for it, so he definitely had a big background in this kind of music.
I think the only thing bad about rockabilly is that it's still around.
Wow. Wow.
It's a hot take.
It's a hot take.
Your barrel is smoking there.
Hey, man.
If you look at a picture of Billy Burnett, though, he looks like a 50s rocker. Like, his hair is, like, oil, grease-slicked black, and, like, wearing, like, the big coat and stuff. Like, he looks like he's from a doo-wop rocker.
And they're into the 80s at this point, so I definitely like that.
They sure are, yeah. They're using out of place at all. So with the new lineup, they hit the road at the end of September 1987. They also brought on backup singers and a drummer that Mick had worked with in Africa. The tour went well, going through North America from September to the end of the year, and then again from May to June in 1988. They were supposed to play in Australia in early 1988, but had to cancel because Stevie was having troubles with her voice. She was clean from drugs, but it was still having effects on her. She was constantly touring and singing, and that would destroy anyone. She was doing this for years, touring her solo stuff and then Fleetwood stuff, and it just ruined her.
And she was also absolutely chiefing cigarettes while she was using. Just one after the other.
Just one drag
she had
to
one
finish
on
it.
deck.
Yeah.
She had one on deck at all times.
One in the ear, one in the mouth, one in the fingers.
Good God.
Swapping the finger with the mouth.
Makes me want to puke.
I think they said she still smokes.
I'm sure she does.
They said she's clean from everything, but still likes to smoke.
Yep.
And still smokes weed every once in a while.
Hey,
well,
good for her.
Who doesn't, right?
That's just mama nature, baby.
Yep.
That's right. Can't believe they made a plant illegal. On this tour, they planned. On this tour, they again played at Wembley, but instead of 6 nights, they played 10 nights this time, and again they all sold out. So now about 1 million people sat in Wembley over 10 nights.
It's crazy. They do it 6 times in a row, and we're like, holy shit! And then they do it 10 more.
10 times.
Good God.
And it sells out every time. Yeah. So when this tour was done, they decided that they wanted to put out a greatest hits album to kind of usher in a change with Rick and Billy coming in. So in November 1988, they did just that. And it sold 8 million copies and included songs from the Buckingham Nicks period on.
And this album cover would have a funny looking flower on it.
You did not do any research for that one.
I just looked at the cover, and they had a funny looking flower.
That was quick. I like it.
Yeah.
We got an in-depth one. We got an abstract one.
You guys should probably just look at it because it is just like a brownish background, and then it says Greatest Hits Fleetwood Mac, and it's just got like a white, like not even like a real flower, like a lined out flower. It's pretty lacy.
That is how you poorly describe an album.
I like it.
There it is.
Learning from Tony.
There you go.
Yeah, and we'll find that, like, I think anytime Mick is, like, getting a little strapped for cash, he's like, let's put out a Greatest Hits album. Like,
Time
what do you
for
guys
a
say we
reunion.
Yep,
Yeah.
for real.
Yep. They put out, like, 4 or 5 Greatest Hits albums.
Wait, let's make it live this time.
Yeah, yeah, let's just use live stuff we've done.
I've got an idea. Let's do whatever we can with this live album that seems a little different from the last one because I need
money so bad.
I need some money. Hey, guys, what if we put out a Greatest Hits album?
He did say that he spent a quote-unquote king's ransom worth of money on cocaine, so...
Yeah, well...
Who didn't? Who didn't? Though?
Yeah, who hasn't?
Yeah. So Stevie, around this time, Stevie put out her 4th solo album in May 1989 called The Other Side of the Mirror, and it hit number 16 on the charts, and again, went platinum. And then later in 1989, the band was back in the studio to record again. They recorded between 1989 and 1990, and Behind the Mask was released on April 10th, 1990.
This album cover had a lady standing on the front of a photo with her arms crossed and her eyes closed. Behind her are 5 people and a dog. The people are playing instruments in front of a house, and the dog is just kind of standing in front of them.
I've got it. I can see it in my mind.
Good.
Wow.
Nice job.
It's like I can take it over.
I can really just paint a picture with my words.
Yeah, this is
I
beautiful.
appreciate it. Yeah,
You both
go
got
look
it.
it up.
You both
Go
got
look it
it.
up because Ethan described it. This album was met with mixed reception, some saying that losing Lindsey was a devastating blow, and others saying that this was their best album yet. It reached number 18 in the US and certified gold, but again, in the UK, it topped the charts again and went platinum.
This makes me think maybe the UK just really hated Lindsey because this was the opposite. They were going down in sales, and then as soon as he left, right back up.
Yeah.
I get it, yeah. I
So-
wonder if it's just like, you know, like
They don't
it's
give a
just
shit about the songs.
the
It's
other
just
side of the
Lindsey.
bell curve, like got really popular in the United States and got not popular in the UK, and then now they're kind of coming back to getting popular in the UK again.
Doing
I don't
a
know.
little S curve. I get it.
Yeah. So Billy and Rick were instrumental in the making of this album, writing 8 of the 12 songs. They helped write 8 of the 12 songs. They didn't do it themselves, but like they helped with Christine and Stevie and stuff like that writing the songs. They toured this album from March to December 1990, and having Billy and Rick in the band allowed them to dive deeper into their catalog and play some of the blues stuff again, including Oh Well, which, as Ethan mentioned, is the oldest song they play, dating back to Then Play On, their album they released in 1969. On the last day of the tour, Lindsey did play as a guest guitarist with them, and when the tour was done, Stevie and Christine decided that they were done touring, but they would still record with the band. Christine's dad had died while they were on this tour, and she decided to take a step back from being so busy with touring. But Stevie was not long for the band. She wanted to make a best of album with their solo stuff and wanted to use Silver Springs that had been kicked off Rumours. She hated that it only saw life on the B-side of Go Your Own Way. Mick, however, said no, as he was also making a best of album, another Greatest Hits, and he wanted to put it on there as kind of a little special treat. There was an argument, and in 1991, Stevie quit the band altogether, and Rick followed her out.
And he followed her straight into the live room, into the back hall, and right out the exit. Just mesmerized by that half moon, because I gotta think Rick is not a really free thinking person.
Not instrumental to the band.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah, I say no one really cared that he left.
Oh shit, someone's going. I better go too.
I better just leave.
Everyone was like, it was like both of them walking out, and they're like, Stevie! No, come back, Stevie! Stevie!
Can I get a producer credit?
Stevie, come back! Stevie! Rick's like, I'm going too, guys. I'm gonna quit the band. They're like,
Who the
Stevie,
fuck is
come
Rick?
back!
Don't try and stop me, because I'm not gonna
I'm
stop.
serious. I'm serious. I'm leaving, guys. Stevie!
Stevie's gone. I'm gone. Don't try to stop me or her.
Stevie, come back! Rick, I think, just immediately went into obscurity. Just fell into obscurity.
Nobody's heard of him then or since, or
but
nobody's named Rick.
And in the end, Mick won out. Mick won that argument, and Silver Springs appears on The Very Best of Fleetwood Mac, which came out in December of 1992. And that seemed to be the end of Fleetwood Mac. The liner notes on the album basically said, thank you for everyone, and it had a very, definite feel to it. They were just thanks to everyone for being a part of this journey. Essentially it was their curtain call. But something was happening at the very same time that no one could have expected and had really nothing to do with the band directly, but it would affect the band directly. 1992 was an election year, and a Mr. William Clinton was running for president and using their song Don't Stop as his campaign song. He ended up winning, and his team thought it would be fitting to get the real thing for his inauguration party. So on January 19th, 1993, the whole band, including Billy, played for the party. This was the first time in 5 years the whole band had played together, because if you remember, Lindsey had quit. And after this, John, Mick, and Christine decided that they wanted to make another album.
Michael Jackson actually appeared on stage with them when they did this performance. It's kind of cool.
It's true. You can see a picture of them, and it's Bill and Hillary and their daughter, who I cannot think of her name, Chelsea. And then it's the band, and then Michael Jackson. So pretty big
lineup.
Weird.
Yeah, it's good.
Wow,
Shortly after this, Billy left the band in March, so they once again had to go find new members. They would pull in a vocalist by the name of Becca Bramlett, who had helped Mick with his third solo album, Shake the Cage, released a year earlier. We haven't mentioned this yet, but it did so poorly that's all I'm going to say about it. They also got Dave Mason, who Mick had known for a long time. Then Billy came back to ask if he could rejoin, as he had failed as a solo artist.
Guys, I've got these songs, and my manager says they're going to be huge. He says they're going to be the biggest next thing. I don't want to take it for myself. I want to give it to you. I want to give it to the band. Let's get it going again. Yeah, we don't fucking care about that. We don't want to look for another guitarist. Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, fine. You're fine.
You're back.
Yeah. In the book, it literally said Mick said that they had nothing to lose, so they let him back in.
Well, easy enough.
Sure,
you worked
back
the first time, I guess. Yeah, just come back.
Yeah. So they took the band on the road from July to December 1994 and April to September 1995. They kind of like to do this thing where they would take the band out on the road before they would record with them to kind of put them through the ringer of
touring life.
like a hazing of this is how this is what being in a band feels like. Like this is it. So
you gotta get
we're not going to
big aspects quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Touring
You're not going to
see if you can handle it
on an album of ours unless you can handle touring.
Yeah.
And so that's what they did. The lineup was Becca on vocals, Billy and Dave on guitar, John on bass, Mick on drums, and then they had a touring fill-in, Steve Thoma, on keys, as Christine still was not touring. They were no longer headlining, instead opening for Crosby, Stills, and Nash, as well as REO Speedwagon. Jeremy Spencer, the Children of God guy, even joined them for one show. So they recorded in the break from touring in 1995 and released Time on October 10th, 1995.
This album cover just has a white backdrop with an egg in the lower right-hand corner. The egg has a hole in it. That's it.
Very symbolic.
Pretty well done. Pretty good description. I
Pretty accurate.
do want to hear how Tony would do this, though.
Tony, why don't you do it?
Okay, I'm going to tell you guys something. This album means nothing to me to the point where I've not even looked at it. How about that?
All we can really ask for is honesty.
If I had to say something about it, I would say the album cover just has a white backdrop with an egg in the lower right-hand corner. The egg has a hole in it.
See, that's why we had you doing it.
See, Tony, you did it so much better.
Thank you, guys. So this album did nothing for them, and it didn't even break into the top 200 in the U.S. It did reach number 47 in the U.K., so I guess that technically is something. It did do something. After this poor reception, Billy and Becca quit to start a country duo group, and I believe that they were never heard from again. I've never heard anything by Billy and Becca. I haven't looked into it, but like I bet it's pretty obscure.
Yeah.
So after they left, the band was once again done.
And Christine said that she was contractually obligated to write on this album, and she said that she had to do it to give it a feel of continuity with the other albums. And she said that it was her least... How do I want to say this? She said she was not fond of this era of Fleetwood Mac. She was her least favorite era.
You wanted to say it exactly how you wrote it.
Yeah, well, I couldn't think.
Just how you wrote it.
It's just,
like all you want to do is read it.
Well, that's at first I was gonna not do it, and then I did.
I do really
It
love
turned out
though.
the best.
I love that Christine's like, I did this to help it give the feel and continuity of what we really wanted, what we were all about. Also, I had to do it, but that's why I wanted to.
Also, because I had to.
I did it because I wanted to and because I legally had to.
Yes.
I mean, it kind of like goes to show though, like you need everyone to make a good Fleetwood Mac.
Oh yeah,
like, you
it's
can't
not the
like
same
have these fill-ins. Yeah.
Even with them doing it now without Lindsey, it's
just not
we'll
the
get
same.
into it, but I wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mick worked with Lindsey on his next solo album, who then called in John and then Christine. Stevie also called on Lindsey and Mick to help record a song for an upcoming movie called Twister. So like they were all in each other's radar and like they would all still help each other. It's just they wouldn't, really do much together.
Wait,
at this time.
Twister? That movie that had a scene recorded in Iowa?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That Helen Hunt.
The movie titled Twister?
Recorded in Hardin
heard of
County,
it?
Iowa.
That's
Where
correct.
I'm
Yeah,
from.
you could still go look at the barn where they filmed the final barn scene.
Yeah.
Because someone is really milking it.
Good for them. Eldora, Iowa. Hardin County.
Yep.
Yep.
How about it? Go check it out. So minus a private show here and there, they didn't do anything for 2 years. But then on May 23rd and 24th of 1997, the band got back together to do an event for MTV. They put out an album of this live event in August called The Dance, and this album did super well, hitting #1 and selling 5 million copies. They had the whole band there, as well as some backing musicians, and again, the USC marching band to play on Tusk, and they also played on Don't Stop. This album is basically a greatest hits album performed live. They were all so jazzed that they decided to tour again. And this time, Christine came along. So from September to November 1997, they toured the U.S.
And I would have been 7 when this happened. And I definitely remember seeing clips of this. Like, it kind of stands out in my mind. So I was looking it up. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube in parts. And it is...
It's a live DVD, too.
Yeah, it's
you can buy
so
the DVD.
awesome. Like, it's so good. Will say, John's got a bit of a gut. He's got what I would call a boat body. Like his bass is just sitting on a shelf.
He's got a sailor body, baby.
Exactly.
You gotta look the part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what he's
you can't
doing.
go out
There's so many times like we didn't talk about, but the band would be together doing stuff, and he's just on his boat sailing with his wife.
He's just out sailing, baby.
And I love it.
He's just sailing.
Why wouldn't you?
Everybody's got that friend, their dad. He's always on the water. He's kind of fat, but he's so tan, and he's got that belly that you punch it and you're gonna break your fingers.
When I saw him
rock hard
live,
belly.
like he looked like he was having the best time. He's just up there with his bass, and he's just having a good time.
Just think about this. This is what he gets to do. He gets to go and just play bass for his job, make millions of dollars doing it, and then when they're done, he's just like, all right, I'll see you guys in 3 years. Like, I'm gonna go boat around the world.
How many
Babe,
bases?
I'm gonna jump in the shower. Make sure you're ready with the sunscreen when I get out because we gotta hitch off.
We gotta go.
Yep. We're going to Tanzania in 2 weeks, so we need to.
We have
No, we're going to
adventure
Tanzania in
in
2
front of
seconds. As soon as they tear down my cabs.
I'm gonna. No, he could just like after the show's done, like the done with the encore. Boom, stage goes down.
He's gone.
House lights go up, and he's like, "All right, guys, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go
Where's
boat."
the nearest port?
Yeah, that's what he gets to do. That's his job. That's his whole life.
That's his life.
He just gets to do that. And just a little extra side note: he's still married to Julie Rubens, his wife. So
They're both just sailing.
He also married her in Christine's backyard. So
he did do that too.
Yes, they did.
So in
weird
January,
as fuck.
It's fine. I'm fully planning on. I'm already married. Never mind.
Yeah.
Wait,
In January, it's fine, guys.
It's fine.
So in January 1998, the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, including some past members like Peter Green, Jeremy Spencer, and Danny Kirwan. They played the 1998 Grammys, where they were nominated for 3 awards.
So Peter Green did not perform with them. He opted to perform Black Magic Woman. And I get that. If you got one big hit that everybody knows, you gotta perform that at the Grammys. Rob Thomas did not show up.
Wow, going back to that joke, huh?
I appreciate that, Austin.
I'll make myself have a history. I'll build a lore for myself.
That's right.
You gotta laugh at yourself first.
If you can't laugh at yourself, then you
No
can't
one's
laugh
gonna
at
do it
anything.
for me.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. That's right. But shortly after this, Christine would step back again from the band, but this time she would fully leave the band, moving back to England to be closer to family. Stevie made a box set of her greatest hits and began work on her next album, which would be released in May 2001, a few months before the band, minus Christine, got back together to play a party for now outgoing President Clinton on January 6th, 2001.
You know, I've said this before. We are not a political podcast. But this was 9 days before his law license was suspended for 5 years.
Why?
It was it wasn't actually due to his, impeachment proceedings. It was due to something else. I can't remember what it was.
I did not have intercourse with that girl.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I literally wrote bit behind what you said because I was about to say, and again, Ethan is slowly going to change us into a political conspiracy podcast. Anytime there's anything political involved, he's going to mention it.
No.
You covered it.
I'm here to cover
kudos
that.
to you.
Yeah.
They again played some private events through the year, and in October 2002, the band put out another greatest hits album, which hit number 12 in the U.S., but number 7 in the U.K. As just in the U.K., it included some of the old blues hits from the Peter Green days. But this, like I said, this album was only available in the U.K.
Austin.
Then...
You know what your key to success might be?
What's that?
Just start putting out greatest hits albums.
Yeah.
Can I combine bands? 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't know if we have enough material.
Screw it.
I just think it was Mick being like, oh man, my bank account is down to 3 digits. Like,
You're
Greatest
giving him
hits
a
album.
lot of credits. I bet it was in the negative every time.
I don't think he had 3 digits. At this point.
That's fair. Yeah, but I mean, every time he did this, I'm sure that he got $100,000 or $1 million. Just like, here you go, like, nice work.
Yep.
Then again, but on April 15th, 2003, as a surprise, the band released their 18th album. Everywhere you read will say 17th album. I'm including the blues track that they did in New York with the Otis Redding.
Oh yeah,
band
the one
and
with
stuff like
Mick
that.
and yeah.
Yeah, so I'm including that as a studio album. So it's kind of 17 or 18 studio albums,
Depending on how you
if
see
you
it.
include
Yep.
that or not. Yeah. But this album was called Say You Will. It didn't feature any songs written by Christine, which hadn't happened in over 30 years. But she did play on 2 of the songs, as they were old Lindsey solo songs, and she had previously worked on them, and they were just pulled over with her parts already on them.
This album cover has Lindsey and Stevie laying down, facing away from each other. That's it.
And if you open it up, it actually you'll see Mick and John as well.
Yes.
Fun.
Very fun. God, it's
Yeah,
so
they're all-
fucking
and then-
fun.
So fun. Yeah, so boring at the same time.
Ethan, you want to hear how I would have done it?
How?
Okay, so this album actually has Lindsey and Stevie. They're actually laying down, facing each other with their legs kind of bent. The image is in black and white. Stevie's hair is kind of spread out all over the place, and then you can actually see John and Mick's arms on the back of it.
Oh, that's true.
And if you open up the whole album, you'll see then John and Mick also laying facing outward of each other. So Lindsey and Stevie are facing each other, and then Mick and John are facing outward, and it's it's very profound.
Thank you,
It's very
Tony.
cool.
God,
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Jesus
Thank you
Christ.
for expanding
my
on
whole
that.
world rocked.
Yes.
You are
Good.
welcome.
You have a career in this.
Yes.
I don't know how or why, but
I don't know what the. I'm not sure. I'm sure.
What's the job
I don't
market
think the
look
job
like?
market is huge and thoroughly explaining album artwork.
Album artwork explainer on Glassdoor. I'm looking at it right now. Salaries.
Wow.
It says, wow, there's no salaries. Weird.
hey, if people can get
2.2
rich
mil.
from painting, you can. Hey, it's all bullshit, man.
It's all fucking bullshit. So that album did very well, hitting the top 10 in both the US and the UK. I think it hit number 3 in the US and number 6 in the UK, reaching gold in both places. They toured this album from May 2003 to September 2004, which is longer than most of the tours that they did. From it came an album and a DVD called Live in Boston, which was recorded on September 23rd and 24th in Boston. Christine actually showed up as a guest to one of their shows, and while she didn't play, she just sat in the audience. Mick pointed her out, and she received a long standing ovation. And she actually did this twice and got a standing ovation both times.
Such a touching moment.
Oh, so good.
So
Yeah, I think
nice
he was
of
just
him.
like long
And the
time
spotlight and the
Fleetwood Mac.
camera.
Yeah. So during her time off, she put out another album, Christine, called In the Meantime in March 2004. Mick put out Something Big, that's the title of the album, in September 2004, and Blues Again in October of 2008 under the name The Mick Fleetwood Band, which included Rick Vito. He shows back up. Lindsey put out Under the Skin in October 2006 and Gift of Screws in October 2008. So they've all put out 4 solo albums at this time, including and also 18 studio albums for Fleetwood Mac. These guys are all working so goddamn
Everywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
crazy.
Non-stop.
During this time, Lindsey also hinted at another Fleetwood Mac tour, to which Stevie said she would only participate if Christine participated in as well.
I feel like Stevie felt like she owed Christine a little because what I was reading where Christine was like, we wanted you on this too, but you weren't there for when they did Tango. I think that it ended up they did re-record her parts and re-release it at some point. And
did a remaster?
Yeah, after she kind of got her shit together. I feel like she did kind of feel like she owed Christine a little bit.
Yeah, I can believe that. Pretty.
That's just me speculating, you know. I'm just.
We talk about the facts about these bands, but you got to remember, we're people too.
We're people,
we have
man.
We have
opinions
to
and
come
have
to our own
speculations.
conclusions.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. We are hoping that we are knowledgeable enough to be able to draw these educated guesses. That's all that they are, but we think that we're pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah,
in all of
we're
it.
probably not, but also, you're probably not either, so what do you know?
Bingo. You're somehow less than us, you goddamn idiot listener.
Stupid listener.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
We do really appreciate it.
So Christine had no response from Stevie, but it was rumored that Sheryl Crow was going to fill in for Christine, but that turned out to be false. Then Stevie said they were working on another album, but then in late 2008, another tour was announced with no album. In March 2009, they were back on the road for 3 months before a break in June, then back out from October to December of 2009. And then again in 2010, another tour was announced, but it wouldn't start for 3 more years. But when it happened, it was worth the wait because Christine joined them on the road. She was finally back and the band was back together. The band, they toured from April 2013 to the end of the year. They canceled all the shows from October to December because John found out he had colon cancer in October. They played their last show on New Year's Eve 2013.
God, that'd be terrible to have colon cancer. I had a buddy who he didn't have colon cancer, but he had ulcerative colitis, and so he had to have his colon removed. And that's like running with straight pipes. You can't fart anymore. I'm serious,
oh my
man.
God, dude.
Yeah. You can't.
What a horrifying and accurate way to describe it.
Yeah, wow. Way to go.
They got back together in September 2014 to go out again until November 2015. These shows saw an average revenue of $2 million and probably 15,000 people per show. They were living the high life here. Like we said earlier, John could just go play his bass and then go sail. Mick was just making a shitload of they were all just making a shitload of money. They could just They just, at this point, they just get to just play their hits and then go and, sleep in, whatever.
And at
they
this
can do
point,
whatever they
bankruptcy means nothing. You'll make it back eventually.
Yep.
Yeah, money is not an
Just do
object
it
for any of
all
these
again.
people anymore. Crazy. $2 million per show on average.
God.
Crazy amount of money. So after this tour, they took 3 years off. During that time, John beat his colon cancer. It came back and he was completely clear of colon cancer. And in November, they put out another best of album called 50 Years, Don't Stop, which is a 3 CD or 5 record collection that had all of their hits from 1967 from their first album to Say You Will in 2003, which came out while they were back on the road on a tour starting in October, but this time without Lindsey, who again had left the band because of a disagreement on details of the tour. They brought in guitarist and vocalist Neil Flynn and guitarist Mike Campbell to replace Lindsey. They played a show on October 14th at the Wells Fargo Arena in Des Moines, and it isn't an important show at all, but the reason I bring it up is because Ethan was at that show. And Ethan, how was it?
It was such a good show, and I wish I would have gotten to see Lindsey play with Fleetwood Mac, because that would have been authentic. It would have been better. But the two guitarists they had, Mike Campbell and Neil Flynn, were really good. I mean, Mike Campbell was the guitarist for Tom Petty, which, to be the lead guitarist for Tom Petty is pretty good. And then
not bad.
Yeah, Neil Flynn.
okay.
Neil Flynn it was the lead singer from Crowded House, and they sang that song, Don't Dream It's Over, Hey now,
How does it go?
hey now, don't dream it's over. I don't remember the rest, but yeah.
Hey now, when the world comes home.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I imagine that Stevie already had a reputation or already had a relationship with Mike Campbell, just because remember she did multiple albums with Tom Petty.
Yep. And so and at the end of the show they did this little homage to Tom Petty because he had died a year before, and they did Free Falling as a band. That was really cool. So yeah,
that's awesome. That's actually way awesome.
It made me cry a little bit. It's fine. It was so cool.
Now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How much did your tickets cost?
And how good were the seats?
I had floor seats in I did have good seats. I'm trying to think. It's probably $150 a piece.
That's not bad.
It wasn't awful.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, it was
for
reasonable.
floor seats.
Yeah.
I'd pay that much.
Yeah, I did.
Worth
I'd
it.
pay that
Just
much.
worth
Yeah.
it.
Worth it.
Yeah, I would do that. So that tour that we were talking about wrapped up just 3 weeks ago in mid-November. And they haven't said anything about another tour yet, but the way things are going, I would guess that they're going to go on another tour in 2022. That's just my speculation. That's 3 years from now. They take 3 years off and then go back out on the road. That's my guess.
Yeah.
I can't say whether that's true or not.
I think 3
but-
years is the perfect amount of time for
Yeah.
Mick to blow his whole load. And then...
Yeah, exactly.
Blow
Need
all
the
your money
again.
and then come back.
But if I can promise you on this episode, if they go back out on tour and come through Iowa again, I will go to that show.
It's so good.
But you didn't last time, so
I didn't promise it last time.
If they do it again,
sure,
I'll go.
no one could hold you accountable.
We'll all go together.
Yeah, we'll go there as a podcast, and then by the time that they come back, we'll probably be world famous.
3 years,
we'll
maybe they'll
open
do
up
an
for
interview
them.
with us.
Exactly.
They'll
Yeah.
give us tickets.
Yeah, it'll be really, really cool. So I can't count the amount of times that they had personnel changes within the band, but it's a lot. And then after 18 studio albums, 9 live albums, 23 compilation albums, and more than 120 million albums sold to date, Fleetwood Mac is one of the bands that will be around long after we're gone.
Oh,
Their
yeah.
music is simple and relatable to anyone. They are truly one of the greats. Keep a lookout for what comes next for them, because I feel like they aren't done. But for right now, that is the story of Fleetwood Mac.
That was so good.
That is
That's
the
the story.
story.
That's the story.
The story of Fleetwood Mac.
Story
You know I
of
can't.
Fleetwood
You know I
Mac.
can't get through it.
Hey, you guys, we finally did it.
We did
wrapped
it.
up.
We made
did
it. We did it. It's over.
We didn't weigh as heavily on the drug use this time around, but just someone literally burnt through their entire nose.
Their
So I mean,
sinuses,
just take that for what it is.
sinuses
Yeah,
literally
they
had
were-
a hole in it.
Yeah, they were all. I mean, Stevie was a really big drug addict. They all did their drugs and everything like that. But like,
the article I read in Rolling Stone was titled, "We were all drug addicts, but I was the biggest."
And our shtick was never meant to be drug addicts. It really wasn't.
It's just they all are.
Yeah, they just all are.
Everyone you're gonna cover in this.
It's funny because the next one's gonna be great too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Cheers, my friends.
Cheers.
I'm not doing it on purpose.
For right now, we're gonna wrap it up. If you would like to find us on any social media, you can look for us at We're On in 5 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's WERE on in 5. And then we also have a website called we'reonin5.com. If you want to find me, you can find me anywhere on Anton is on in 5. That's Twitter and Instagram. I lied when I said anywhere. If you want to find me on Facebook, just look for me. Look for my name.
Yeah.
And
it's the only way you can do it.
If you don't find me, I don't give a shit. Just follow me on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow Ethan anywhere.
On Twitter, I am Ethan Bonine. On Instagram, I am Bones for Bonine. And as always, just email us. Just talk to us. We are onin5@gmail.com. Just do it.
We want to hear from you. We want to see you.
We truthfully love hearing from you.
We do.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just say hi.
That's all we want.
Yeah. Austin, what about you, man? Where can people find you?
They can find me anywhere. I just want someone to talk to us, man. I'm on everything. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook.
Okay. Could you be a little bit more specific?
I can't be any more specific than that.
Perfect.
No,
I didn't want you to be
specific as I can get.
Hey, I don't want it. I don't want it.
I don't want. Yeah. Don't give it to him. Don't give it to him.
Don't give it to them. They'll find it.
Fuck them. Fuck you guys.
Wow.
Fuck 'em
Wonderful.
Fuck them all.
So another thing that we want to do.
I do love you. I really love you.
So another thing that we want to do on this show is we want to drink good beer so that, eventually a lot of breweries will put out new beer and they're like, man, I really wish that we had a way to advertise this beer. We want to be those advertisers.
We want to be the
send us
three
free
dipshits that people resort to get their beer heard about.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we all drink beer during this episode and then promote it at the end of the episode.
And this one that I've been drinking is not very well known.
Oh, let me tell you about it.
We're gonna help them out.
I'll start here. So I've been drinking it's an English lager, I think is what it's called. It's pretty, I don't know. They brew it through high gravity distillery, and it comes actually conveniently it comes in 42-ounce bottles, which is really, really nice. Big plastic bottles. I am drinking Old English high gravity 800, and it is so fucking gross.
High gravity.
Austin, what did you drink?
Austin, what are you drinking?
God, Tony. So I've been drinking a lager as well. It's pretty smooth. I can't really figure out what kind of percentage we're looking at, but I'm going to tell you, it's something I've never tried. I wanted to try something new and a little different, and I only had one. Mine was also about in the 40-ounce range, and I'm feeling a little toasty. I'm drinking
What are you drinking?
good old-fashioned malt liquor. It is Old English 800.
That sounds really good. That sounds really good.
Tasty. Huh, I'll have to go check that one out. Ethan, what about you, man?
All right, so I decided to change it up this week like I always do. I always go for quality. And I got a plastic bottled 42-ounce Old English 800 malt liquor. 800 high gravity, can't really tell how much alcohol's in it, but it's all gone. So
You drank it all, yeah.
I had two in my hand when I left the gas station, and I almost bought both, and I was like, I don't need them.
You only need one.
Let me tell you, when I bought mine from the liquor store today, there was a $5 minimum on a debit card, so I had to buy both of them.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a second sitting in my fridge, just waiting for me to reach a fucking rock
I
bottom.
almost bought a 6-pack of Tall Boys instead, so I'm so glad that didn't happen.
So the reason that we all drank the same beer this episode is because we're wrapping up a series on an Old English band. You guys get it?
Yeah, Old English.
How about it? We thought it'd be funny, and now we have to live with this joke.
English.
of us drinking shitty
Just
beer
English.
for this whole episode.
It's worth it.
So
Yeah, it was good.
It was okay.
It's worth the laugh. It's worth the laugh.
Shit. Well,
So, please go like and review us on iTunes and anywhere you listen to podcasts. The more that you like us and review us and things like that, the more publicity we're going to get. We're going to get on New and Noteworthy if you guys help us out. So that will help us get seen more, which will make us bigger. We want to eventually do this full time. So we would love if you guys would do that.
yeah,
Please.
seriously, all jokes aside, even if you're just one of our friends, if you can just go to iTunes if you listen to this and just
Like
leave
us.
like a little review or a rate, that would be amazing.
Yeah, we would.
And you don't even gotta do
genuinely
5
appreciate
stars.
it.
Just be honest,
Yeah.
man.
Just
tell us we
people
suck.
Right, we want to know if we're doing a bad job so we can do a better job because we want to make the best product for you guys. If you're going to listen to us for 2 hours, we want to make sure that we're at least entertained.
At the same time, though, we're independent people, so we don't also give a fuck at all.
Yeah, also, if
Yeah,
you
that's
don't
right.
listen, just give us 5 stars.
Yeah, just do it blindly. Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna wrap it up there. Thank you so much for listening to our 4-part series on Fleetwood Mac, and thank you for listening to our whole show in general, if that's what you have done. We will talk to you guys next time. In the meantime, be good.
Yeah, be good
good
to
out
each
there.
other. Be good
Be
to
good.
yourselves.
Be good, baby.
Yeah,
Be good
Yeah,
to your mom.
the
Be
world's
good
a-
to your dad. Be good to your aunt. Be good to
the
your
world's a
uncle.
cold place, so try and warm it up a little bit with a little kindness.
That's right.
Anyone got a song to sing on the way
Try
out?
a little tenderness.
What
Bye.
makes you think you're the one?
Yes. I don't know. Yeah.